I'm going to have a look at what's making headlines in the French press now. Haxi Mayor's Balkan is here. We're going to start with the news then that the Italian Prime Minister is resigning, Haxi, after this heavy referendum defeat.
Absolutely. Let's start with Le Monde, whose headline reads, Renzi resigns after a resounding rejection of his proposed constitutional reforms. As you can see, there's a picture of him. It's a still from Sunday night's televised address, where he announced that his time was up. And he's looking more than a little crestfallen there, as you can see. The article goes on to say that for Renzi, this referendum was very much an enjeu personnel, a personal matter, which is to say that the Italian Prime Minister was well aware of the fact that this was a referendum on constitutional reforms, yes, but also on his leadership of the country.
What's the paper saying then about what comes next now for the country?
Well, as we read in this article, following Renzi's formal resignation later today, either Renzi or another member of the Italian centre-left majority will form a new government. Or there will be early elections. The most vocal fans of that option are the far-right Northern League and the populist Five Star Movement, those, of course, being the two parties that were instrumental in drumming up support for a no vote.
Well, of course, while that many are now predicting a real period of political and economic uncertainty in Italy, there's been another vote in Europe this weekend, as we've been talking about, one that bucks the trend of recent populist wins, Haxi.
There has. The victory of the Green Van der Bellen reassures Europe, reads this headline of Catholic paper La Croix. Van der Bellen has just been elected the new president of Austria, defeating his far-right rival Norbert Hofer, who'd been hoping to capitalise on a wave of right-wing anti-establishment sentiment across the Western world in recent months. Now, the stories coming out of Italy and Austria today are generating a lot of comment internationally, but we'll be covering those stories in the 9:20 Paris time press review too, Stuart.
OK, stay with us for that in a couple of hours' time. Now, we're going to move to French news, and that breaking news that we were getting introduced a few moments ago. If you are just tuning in, we've been hearing that Manuel Valls, the French Prime Minister, is due to make a statement at 6:30 this evening, local time, to, we assume anyway, announce his candidacy for the presidency, which is coming up, of course, those elections next spring. There's only really that one story dominating the French papers today. When will Valls announce that he's running? Well, it seems that it could be tonight, actually.
It could indeed. Now is Valls' moment, according to the front page of La Croix, days after President François Hollande's shock announcement that he won't be putting his hat in the ring. The paper is convinced that we won't have to wait much longer for Hollande's former protégé Valls to formally declare his decision to run. And news coming in this morning very much confirms that. This article does also remind us that in these unpredictable times, anything is possible. But, as I just said, by the looks of things, that is very much the announcement that we're going to be hearing later on today.
Sounds like it, but who knows? We shall wait and see to exactly what he's got to say. L'Opinion, too, they think Valls will announce his candidacy.
They do. The paper thinks that the announcement is imminent, as do we now too, and that it will consist of a promise by Valls to, quote, embody a new strength for the French left, and that he won't be taking any prisoners. The piece is, as you can see there, accompanied by a rather amusing cartoon in which François Hollande doesn't come off too well. We see Ecology Minister, who is also, of course, the mother of Hollande's children, Ségolène, saying he'll always be a towering figure in history. Hollande thinks she's talking about him, but Valls chimes in, don't get excited, she's talking about Castro. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute.
So many politicians. Now, the left-wing paper Libération has a word of warning for Valls, doesn't it?
It does. It warns that the voters Valls might find hardest to convince are those whom the paper calls Hollande's orphans, those who've supported Hollande and who now find themselves without a leader. The paper warns Valls that he'll have to tread very lightly here, especially when he's seen by many of Hollande's supporters as backstabbing and, quote, an unnatural successor.
And let's end by returning to that story which you referenced earlier on. This is Ségolène and Fidel Castro.
It is. Over the weekend, French Ecology Minister, Ségolène attended the funeral of Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro and offered a eulogy that many found to be a little too effusive. She called Castro a towering historical figure, somewhat forgetting the numerous human rights abuses that took place in Cuba on his watch. Le Monde, as you can see there, has come down squarely on Royal, dedicating an article to cataloguing a litany of abuses committed under Castro, including masses of political arrests and stifling the freedom of the press. Le Figaro has also riffed on Royal's speech. A front page article is headlined Castritude, which of course isn't really a word, but it's a tongue-in-cheek reference to bravitude, a word that a couple of years ago Royal seemed to just make up on the spot. So Le Figaro having a bit of fun with that one there.
I'm sure they took a little bit more time to make that one up themselves. Thank you very much, Haxie. Haxie and Charles back later on, of course, during the programme.